Welcome. I am here with Amanda Findlay. She is the executive director at Matchbox Studios in Lafayette, Indiana, which is like 65 miles south of Chicago.
Mm-hmm,
Ish.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, where? I was familiar with it. I spent 15 years in Chicago,
Okay.
so I knew roughly, but I double checked on the map this morning. So awesome.
Nice. Yeah, we're kind of conveniently located between Chicago and Indianapolis.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about Lafayette. Like roughly population 70,000. Wikipedia says it's a great place to live, dense suburban area. I was like, okay.
That's so nice of Wikipedia.
I
Yeah, we
know.
think it's a great place to live. Yeah, population roughly 70,000. We're right across the Wabash River from Purdue University.
Okay.
And a huge percentage of Purdue graduate students live in downtown Lafayette.
Okay.
Matchbox is based in downtown Lafayette, but
Yep.
the whole footprint of the city isn't that large, so
Yeah.
everything's relatively centrally located. We're close to an interstate that takes you straight from Indy to Chicago, so
Yeah.
pretty good place.
Okay. Or Indianapolis. Perfect. Yeah. When I lived in Chicago, before I opened my co-working space, I worked for a healthcare startup and we had Eli Lilly was our client. So I would
Sure.
do the day trip down to Indianapolis, get my Starbucks, get on the expressway, and yeah. Anyway, okay, tell us. So I want to get to your co-working story. Tell us a little bit about your background and how did you end up in co-working? How did you end up at Matchbox?
Sure, serendipitously. I feel like I find myself on panels every once in a while where they're like, did you intend to have a career in co-working? And I'm like, co-working wasn't a thing when my career started. I don't understand the question. Yeah, I started my career in healthcare marketing, interestingly, women's health specifically in like a critical access hospital in rural Indiana, and did that for a handful of years, but then moved to Lafayette with the intention of being here maybe for a little while kids were little, and then just fully embraced this community and immersed myself in it. So I've been here for 15 years. I started at Purdue's Research Foundation when I moved to the community 15 years ago, doing like the incubation thing. So Purdue's very intentional about incubating companies. A lot of them are technology from the university. So I started in that space and then worked with a statewide network. And we dabbled in co-working. We always put like the hyphen in it. And sometimes we call it
I love that one of
co-space.
the first things you mentioned is the hyphen. Yeah,
Yeah, we
the
didn't really
hyphen.
know what to do with it, but we had a lot of square
I am
footage.
also
And
offended by the hyphen. So
it's so offensive. It's a whole word. It can stand alone now. But we did, then it couldn't, then it kind of couldn't.
yeah.
So we dabbled with that in these
So you
statewide
knew you
spaces.
were kind of familiar with it from an incubator,
Yeah.
like business. Yeah.
Yeah, and before that, in my role in healthcare marketing, we were really focused on community building and like activating spaces in different ways. So transferable skills,
Yeah.
transferable interest. But yeah, we did that for a little while, and then we started an organization on campus, maybe I guess 11 years ago, called Purdue Foundry, and worked really intentionally with faculty, staff, student, and alumni startups. And I was with that organization for a few years, and Matchbox was kind of opening in tandem. And I was watching this happen. And we were really good partners with Matchbox at the time. We're trying to figure out what partnership looked like. And a year after they opened the doors here, the opportunity to work for Matchbox opened up. And because it is a small ecosystem, I'd familiarized myself with the
Yeah.
co-founders and got the opportunity to make the transition. And I've been at Matchbox for the last 9 years.
9 years.
9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That no
So
one
we,
ever. That's crazy. Although I have started to interview people who have been open for 10 years, which is to your,
yeah,
it's like nobody knew, started in like people who now have had careers like you in
yeah,
co-working. It's like so unusual.
I
So
know. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. I brought a prop. This is our like 2014 to 2024 10-year anniversary book. So yeah, we
did you
celebrated 10
make
years
that?
in
Who made it?
April. We are so lucky. One of our co-founders is an incredibly talented designer, and we worked with him to put it all together. Our co-founder story is really fun, actually.
Do you want to give us the short versions of who
I'd
they are?
love to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so Matchbox, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. And we have three co-founders. One is a startup founder. He's in the tech space. I met him 15 years ago, probably when I first came to this community. Really, really good at community building. He ran a group called Lafayette Tech. He had meetups for different like coding languages. He was just like the most intentional about community of like anyone I've met in the tech space. So that was kind of the strengths that he brought to the table. That's Michael Berger. Dennis Carson is the director of economic development for the city of Lafayette, and he runs the Lafayette Urban Enterprise Association. So he lives and breathes economic development, incredibly good at his job. And that's what he brought to the table. He's also worked closely with the mayor for a really long time, who's been an advocate for us forever. And then the third was Jason Tenenhouse. He's a serial entrepreneur, industrial designer. He designs strategies, spaces. So he is the one who made everything look beautiful. So I like to joke, like with their powers combined, I think
Totally.
how lucky when we have those three forces behind this organization. And really the only reason why in 2014 or 2012, which I guess is kind of when the project got started, they could get a whole community behind something that they kind of had to like educate them about before they could get a foot in the door.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so you're making me think of a lot of things. Have you run across Kevin Whelan by any chance?
No,
He's been on the podcast a couple times. He's a marketer in the space and he works mostly with multi-site spaces, but he posted on LinkedIn yesterday something about marketing not just being, the ability to run digital ads or posting things to social. It's like what you just talked about with the three founders and probably your own background within the ecosystem, like being able to really like connect and mobilize and just, be really visible and a part of what's happening. And those three and plus you a year later, that's so meaningful. It's so different than starting, from scratch, so to say. It's like this was a manifestation of like a placemaking for the work that they were already doing, and the networks they already had, which is really interesting.
Absolutely. Like some of the folks that they brought to the table 10 years ago to do some of even like the early strategy, like they put together a group of people in the community and brought them into this space when it was like gravel floors and boarded up windows and handed them chalk and said like, I don't know, where would you put walls? So they've had the kind of connections to do things collaboratively the whole time. And that's been pretty great.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing about your model because we talked to, I run this program called the Co-working Startup School, and we always start with what is your why? Because one of the things I love about co-working is some people are like, well, I'm really passionate about community, but I want this to make a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money is always relative.
Of course.
As you know. And then there are models like yours where the founders probably were like, well, how can we make this sustainable? But the community needs this and we want to do this. And it wasn't really about the profit it was going to drive. As a matter of fact, your website says it costs a lot of money to run this space. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think in our audience, we have a lot of folks who are probably just really interested in your model. So thank you for taking the time to do this and telling your story. So what is the three founders' involvement in the business or the project? I don't know. Do you call it a business? What do you call it?
Yeah. Organization, probably.
Organizations. Yeah. It's still a business. It's not for profit. Just have
it's still a business. It's still a business. Yeah. I think thinking about it as a business, a mission-driven business, but thinking about it as a business also, I think, helps us avoid falling into a lot of nonprofit traps. I've always worked in the nonprofit space, so I know that there are a lot of traps to fall into, and they're easy to fall into sometimes. So that mashup of mission-mindedness and business-mindedness, I think has been really helpful for us. Their current involvement, one, Dennis is the president of our board of directors. Jason served as executive director until our 10-year anniversary when he resigned, and I swooped in and stole his job. And Michael served on our board for about 8 years until he stepped back to make space for new folks on the board.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is your relationship like as the executive director with the board?
Oh my gosh. So we are so lucky to have the board that we have. They represent so much of the demographic that we serve. So being able to tap into them for not only feedback and advice and guidance, but also really their stories sometimes drive the decisions that we make because they've lived the life of the folks who were in the space, but
Yeah.
maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah. They're like
they're
right
so
in front of your
insightful.
ideal members.
Oh my
They're,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. They all get it. Some of them are our biggest cheerleaders. Some of them are a little tougher, but I think that's probably like good board balance, right? Some folks who are really like tough and want to go through every budget line by line and want to like poke holes in every strategy, but in a helpful way. And then others who are just like real hype guys, both in the space and in the community.
Yeah. So you essentially report to the board, I presume.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you mentioned budget, you're putting together an annual budget, which I also love having a board. Really, I was the executive director of the Global Workspace Association for 5 years, and they are board operated or managed, I should say, as well. And it's such good discipline because, right, there's a bunch of really smart people who are getting in a room once a month or once a quarter, and you have to report, or is this, or what's the plan, and then how are we doing to plan? And it can be hard for business owners to have that discipline. So I like the board partly for that reason.
You like the board. Yeah. Every 2 months, I have to put together a report and pull all of the data. I think I'm the kind of person who loves data. I'm so data driven, but the process of collecting data can be so onerous.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's like forcing you to do the thing that you know that you should be doing. Yeah.
And that's why, entrepreneurial founders just like often don't do those things because it's so painful. It's like they know they should and they appreciate the process, but then it's just too hard and they just
like cleaning my gutters. It's like cleaning my gutters.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that the board requires that. Okay. So yeah, tell me about Matchbox. Who does it serve? Who are your members? It sounds, and this I only know from your website. I mean, it sounds like you provide an incredible amount of programming, classes. Tell us the deal.
Yeah, it's been through so many iterations. My favorite thing about preparing to talk to you today was just like thinking back through all of the generations and iterations of the organization and like how it was modeled and how we were executing. But today, the base level of Matchbox Studios is an 11,000 square foot co-working space. So we're operating out of an old car dealership that turned into a car repair garage that turned into a private family's like storage space for a long time. And then they donated it to the Tippecanoe County Public Library, who very kindly leases it to us. But it took about a $1.5 million renovation to make it a people space. Yeah.
Right.
So 1930s era car dealership, a lot of the space and the aesthetics of the space were kept original. So a lot of our brickwork, the inside of our roof, which is really actually quite beautiful. It's like a curved roof or ceiling, I guess. And to preserve that look, they put a couple of new roofs on the outside. So we're well insulated and safe in here.
Well, I mean, Indiana winters, so
it gets rough,
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah, I can see
the winters. That's wild.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can see it. If for those who want to take a peek, we'll have the link to the website in the show notes, and you can see it right on your homepage. It is really beautiful.
The virtual tour on our page is really nice too. One of our members is an incredibly talented real estate like photographer, and he usually does like, high rises in big cities. So we were grateful that he volunteered to do that for us. We have the best member community. Don't get me started. We have the best members. So that's the footprint.
You've been in this space for the whole 10 years.
9 of 10.
9. Okay.
Yeah, 9 of 10.
Wow.
Okay. Which is sometimes incredible to think about and sometimes terrifying because what happens next? But for now, it's great.
Okay, so it looks like no private offices, heavy on the meeting rooms, media studio, and then you have a makerspace adjacent. Yeah, so tell us like the purpose of the space. Like, so having no private offices is like definitely the opposite of, we're trying to monetize the space. It's very aligned with what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, from like a financial model perspective, you can rent a private office for one person in downtown Lafayette, like a block from where we're located for like hardly any dollars. The cost of living is incredible here. Rent is very affordable. Office space is accessible, and there's not a shortage of it. So
Yeah.
the idea of filling this gorgeous space with a bunch of offices or even like cubicles just did not make sense. Those resources exist. That's not the gap in the market. That wasn't the gap in the market. What we didn't have was a sense of community, the share, like anything that was more of a shared space. And this was 10 years ago. So now we do have like incredible coffee shops downtown and more shared spaces. But the fun thing is we all kind of like follow each other around downtown and work from all of these places, which I'm sure is not specific to our community. So the intention of building it so open was really for that connection, for that community building. The meeting rooms are heavily used. They do get a lot of use. And our reserve desks are too. We've doubled our reserve desks since we opened our doors because they are in more demand, especially as there are more remote workers living in our community. But the open workspace works pretty well for our community. We have about 350 members and partners that use the space right now, that max out about 100 people in a given day from,
Would you get
midnight
100
to
people
night.
that check in a day?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
We are 24/7 space too.
Yep. Okay. So do you
So
have
we have a
college
day crowd and
students?
a night crowd.
Yeah. Do you have
Graduate
college students?
students. Yeah, we have
Graduate.
graduate students.
Okay.
So we have had like 2 undergrad members in the history of this place. It's not, undergrads have access to so many places to work.
Yeah.
Graduate students are like at that precipice between being a student and
Yeah.
like a job, right? Graduate school's different from undergrad, and they don't want to be in a campus building necessarily. They don't
Yeah.
want to be surrounded by undergrads. So it is appealing to them, especially when they're a little bit further in their work and they're like heads down on their thesis, they're working on their dissertation, they're getting close to defending. Grad students have really utilized the space heavily. It's hard because that's a transient community. They're going to finish that degree and we'll never see them again, and it's
Right.
sad. Miss them.
Yeah.
But so that's the one where we're not getting those members and keeping them for 10 years, but they're integral to the space. They're also great at building community. They're like inviting people to brunch and like pulling them out from behind their laptops
Yeah.
and being in conversation, maybe as a distraction tactic to avoid more thesis work, but we
Totally.
don't need to get into
No,
the
but to your point, they're still in that phase where they really embrace community, and they're not
yeah.
totally like, I'm working, don't bother, I got stuff to do over here. Well, okay, but you do have remote workers. So the space is not only filled with sort of like the economic development. There's people who have 9 to 5s who want to be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah, and a lot of our remote work community has, a spouse or a partner or a family member who has like brought them to this community for work, maybe at the university or with one of our
That
major
makes sense.
employers. Yeah.
And they need to find their own people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely. One note on that I do think is worth sharing, and this has been a relationship that we've had to like build and rebuild over time, but like plugging in with the HR folks who are doing retention and recruitment for those big organizations has been helpful for us. So if they're trying to like pull in someone in a high level position and they know that and they're coming from another part of the country and they know that their partner either does something entrepreneurial or will work remotely once they relocate, they bring them here for a tour. And I think it's like sealed some deals on a couple
So
of
interesting. It's like a benefit. It's like a sort of benefit perk for the partner.
Yeah. So just making sure.
Yes, we're going to relocate your family or the two of you, yeah. That's really, that makes a lot of sense. So how do you foster those relationships? Is that,
intentionally? Yeah. So just we've tried to stay connected to the HR offices at like the largest employers in our community.
Yeah.
And we let them know that like when they're going through this recruitment process, or if they think they might lose someone to another community, like use us as a resource, like hit us up and we'll give someone a tour and we'll sit down and talk. Yeah. We'll even, if they're recruiting someone for a high level position and they really want to like draw them to the community, we'll bring other folks to the table. We'll like get a lunch together. So we can be a helpful resource in that aspect too.
That is so smart. And I love it too, because a lot of co-working spaces are trying to figure out like, well, how do we attract those people? And it's like, I think they think like, oh, I have to go find HR at not even like sort of the local, like just, they're thinking about it at scale versus like, you're just going straight to the local people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did find that our community has like an area HR association.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know if that's common or not, but if your
Yeah.
area has an HR association and they have regular meetings, they're probably looking for speakers for those meetings. Just reach out and offer to speak.
Yeah. Brilliant. Also, even I'm just thinking, I mean, the power of connection is it's so simple and yet so often overlooked. And I'm just thinking like, well, I was just, doing a couple of podcast episodes about I joined this CrossFit gym and they just made no effort on that front and I left. And then I joined this other place in town that's not actually really my favorite workout, but they're so lovely, like in terms of connections and outreach and making sure you're comfortable and you know people. And it's like, it just makes all the difference.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we relocated for my husband's job and I cannot even imagine what it would have been like. I mean, they did some like helpful logistical things like, they moved us and had people unpack for us. But like, I still feel like I'm trying to like find my people here because I don't have my co-working space here was a half hour from my house. So not my neighborhood, right? It's like the comfort that you can like put people in right away. I'm just picturing what you just even with lunch with a few people to help them say like, oh, I could fit here. I can see myself here. Okay, let's do this. Amazing.
How focused do we have to be? Can I share my personal neurosis?
Yeah, totally.
I keep like a note in my phone of like people I maybe want to be friends with. Just because like as adults, and this is something we talk about with like co-working community building. I think as adults, it's so hard to make friends and it doesn't happen organically. Like we're not going to see each other in class. We're not going to have the same lunch period. Like these things kind of stop existing. And we talk about how co-working fits that need for so many working adults who have workplace dynamics as their like number one social outlet. But if we think about like what it takes to actually foster friendship with those people. And I see our members who will approach someone and just say like, I'm going down the street for lunch. Do you want to come with me? I'm so envious and I've learned from them. So yeah, I keep this note and I'm like, I met this person. The vibes were good. We seemed to have a couple things in common. Next time you're going to brunch, maybe hit them up.
No, I actually love that. I have the same problem because we moved here and I didn't know anyone, right? And even now, and do you have a kid? You mentioned
I
a kid.
do, yeah. I have two.
Yeah. How old are they now? Right. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I feel like my whole social life is actually just chauffeuring her to her social life.
Literally in my car all the time.
Yeah. I've started to get a little resentful. Yesterday, she like got in the back seat and sits and looks at her phone, and I was like, hey, what are you doing back there? Like, it's your driver. Come on.
Yeah. You have to talk to me. My 15-year-old puts his headphones in immediately and I'm like, no way, no chance.
It's not how we're going to roll. But it's totally that I think co-working, right? It's even just little. It's not like even it's the little things. And I think we overlook that sometimes with sort of people in the co-working community do talk about it. And certainly I love getting into this stuff because I often focus on the numbers and, the things because I really care about people running sustainable businesses, but it's those little things that it's so funny we can all relate to. I know I asked this woman out on a dinner date that I met, same thing. I was like, okay, I need some more friends. Who can I be friends with? My husband was out of town. And I was like, I'm going to ask her if she wants to get dinner. And
I love that.
Hard as an adult, and co-working can like totally facilitate that. And it also, you mentioned watching someone go up to somebody. It's like, it's like asking someone out. It's like, well, what if they don't like me back?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
That's also why we have community people that
for sure
with that and events. And well, so what does your team look like? So you're the executive director.
Yeah. Newly appointed.
On the team?
I've been in this role for 6 months. Our director of operations is Juliana Casavan. She and I have worked together. This is so nuts for like 15 years in various aspects. So we worked together at Purdue. We worked together at the Research Foundation. We kind of just keep like following each other from place to place. So we've been at it for a while and really like She's so key. She knows her way around a spreadsheet. She can write a budget. She can do all the things that I am not good at. So I love the opportunity to keep working with her. I think we work really, really well together. And she's been at Matchbox for the last 5 years. We have a manager of programs and acceleration, which was my job until my
Okay.
promotion. I've been just handing that over with ease and without any control issues at all. It's so hard. These teams will start really small and kind of grow, and you have to
Yeah.
kind of give things up and because I've been here so long, every time it is like a process. When we hired our first studio coordinator, and it wasn't me. So when I was hired, we had 2 employees. My colleague Emily was running our events and our social media. And then I was really doing like operations, studio stuff. We were tag teaming tours, new member orientations, but it was just the two of us for a long time.
With a lot of members. So I think what's interesting is you have
Remember?
10,000 feet, which, in a traditional space, you could run with one person,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
It is the volume of like programming and events and members that you have. I mean, it's really incredible to have that many members in 70,000, in a population of 70,000. And I'd be curious how much of a role the university plays. But sometimes
Yeah.
I ask people, like, this might be borderline. Let's see if this works. And you have
Yeah.
300 members. Yeah.
Yeah, I know our co-founder's goal was to have, I think, 75 members ever. Like they were like, if we can get and keep
And
75
we've
members,
accomplished what we
golden.
came here to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they had around 75 when I started after the first year. So they did that in 12 months. And by the end of the second year, I doubled that. So like it's continued to grow. It does seem like we've kind of like this is kind of where our membership number
Yeah.
lives. But
Kind of a steady
over
state.
over the life of the organization in 10 years, we've had over 1,000 members total. Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew they were out there. We didn't know there were this many of them out there.
Yeah. And so because you do, I'm just curious because space is a part of what you do. I'm going to
Yeah.
look at your website now and see what your memberships are. Well, let's finish your team first because
Oh,
I
yeah. Sorry.
interrupted you to say, like, you have a lot of team members for 10,000 feet. It's because you have a lot of members and you do
Yeah.
a lot of programming and events. So yeah, sorry, keep going.
We also work with contractors. So we've learned from our members on how to like optimize small teams, and we work with contractors. So
Yeah.
our full-time staff, Juliana, Erin, she's programs and accelerations manager, and Sam is our studio coordinator. So 4 full-timers. And then we have a marketing contractor. We have a makerspace and media studio contractor. And then we have an acceleration like coordination contractor. And that's because that nonprofit thing means that we get to play in the grant space. And right now we're in the middle of like a great big grant execution. So we needed some extra hands on deck for that.
Okay, got it. Okay, can you talk about what is the studio?
The studio. Usually when we're talking about the studio, it's like all 3 of those components and how they play together. So co-working, acceleration, and then makerspace and media studio. Those are kind of the 3 components that make up Matchbox Studios. So co-working is co-working, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to explain that to this crowd.
Yeah.
Shared workspace, private desks, meeting rooms, makerspace, media studio, and then programming for that demographic, which really focuses on like getting and keeping them connected. And then we've done some series in things like professional development, how to network, how to goal set, that sort of thing. And then we've done workshops, how to start a podcast, how to use a laser cutter.
Yeah. So you have kind of 2 segments of members, like the regular person and then also this other mission of advancing startups and helping. Yeah. So
Yeah, our
you're
membership kind of
programming for both.
we're really doing programming for both. And our membership kind of breaks down in thirds. So about a third of our members are like traditional remote work or like work from anywhere folks. A third are entrepreneurial. And that last third falls into this like hobbyist, graduate student, like writer designer space. That's a little bit more creative. They're fun. We love them.
Okay, so now I'm curious about so many things. So how do people, you talk about 300 members, you might check in 100 people a day, which is a lot. But what do people's memberships look like and how they spend their time? Like or how do they use the space? How much time do they spend there for
Yeah.
each segment? Do you mind talking about that?
I just don't know that I can distill that into
Okay.
anything that's useful. They're so across the
It's
board.
varied. Okay.
It's so varied. And I think that our nonprofit formation also means that we have some members that we really only see like once a month, but they're supportive and they want to be able to have access. They want to be able to attend, events and show up and support this like work that we're doing here. So we
Yeah.
go all the way from those folks that we see maybe every 30 days to this is your office every day. But that doesn't necessarily like break down by those
Okay,
three.
by the segments. It's
Yeah.
just kind of individual. But
Yeah.
so you have a $99 a month membership that includes kind of access to everything, and that
Everything.
is unlimited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
24/7 unlimited. We limit their meeting rooms by
Okay.
hours, but that's
Yep.
it.
Okay, cool. And then the reserved is 298 or 249 for startup, which I also love. Okay,
Yeah.
very cool. And then you've got, business address, day pass. Super simple. I mean, I love this. I
Super
love a lot of
simple.
things about I don't know if you had a member to your website, but your website is really nicely done. I mean,
Thank
it's
you so much.
beautiful, but also like the usability. I always, I'm like, why would somebody have this
Yeah.
button here? Or it's so clear,
Oh, thank you.
so easy to navigate. Even my favorite thing on your homepage is how do I get started? Like the little 4 boxes. You might think it's ridiculous, but like I love it. It's like if you don't understand, like you're new, it's like here you go. This is what you do. It's as simple
No,
as that. Very Donald
what,
Miller. Have you ever read Story Brand?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
His
Mhm.
whole confuse you lose, just tell them in 3 steps what it is. I was like, perfect. They've done it.
I think that like the coolest thing about running our acceleration workshops and courses out of the studio is that we've also like put ourselves through that. So we
Yeah,
like
it's
everything that
like
we,
graduate school for you guys. You're like,
yeah,
okay, let's do a project. Let's apply
yeah,
what we're
everything that
hearing.
we
Yeah.
make them do, we have to make ourselves do. Like if I'm telling them that they have to do customer discovery and like talk to who their potential customers might be, I have to do the same thing. Or if I'm asking them to do like a value proposition canvas and figure out what they deliver that has value for their customers, we have to know that too. Like we can't speak to it if we don't practice it. So we redid our website probably 4 years ago and moved everything to Squarespace. So we also have a ton of control over it, which is
Yeah,
fun.
and it's easy for you guys to update it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's if anybody listening, we'll link to it in the show notes. It is really nicely done.
Also,
And
that's
great. It's on
Jason. Yeah.
Squarespace. Again, it's pretty simple, but I think it's the simplicity that makes it work really well. Well, and your cool videos and photos. Because you also really get a sense for the space, which is, oh, now I'm seeing the makerspace on the video. Wow. So is that
It's
wow. What do people
wild.
do in there?
What do they even do? It's
Yeah.
wild. So it's small. Can you get
It
like
does
your
look small.
sense
That's
of
why
how
I was
small?
like, I wasn't even picturing. I haven't seen that many makerspace, and some of them they vary so much. Your equipment looks very high tech. I was like, what's in there? Sewing machines, 3D printers, like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in yours.
Over 60 processes, laser cutters, 3D printers, sewing machine, leather working, casting, molding, modeling, and then like a ton of like product photography sort of stuff in there too.
Oh, okay.
Who uses it? Everyone from like me laser cutting a map of Indiana for my kids' like social studies class
Right.
to folks
They'll
doing like,
appreciate that someday if they don't appreciate it
I
now.
think they're
Someday.
nerds. I think they already did. Yeah, they already
Okay.
appreciate.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
To like prototyping and small scale manufacturing. So it literally runs a gamut. Like I've gone in there to glue the sole back on my shoe, and we've had members build first prototypes of international companies back there. So it really is such a multifunctional space. We're really lucky to have it. It's a weird one because its value doesn't always make sense. Like then if we're talking about like making numbers make
Yeah.
sense,
Doesn't
I
look
don't
good
know
on a
if that's
spreadsheet.
it. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
look good on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But we also have a big red slide in the studio. And like those are the two things that I feel like set us apart, right? We have this makerspace that every member has access to. So if anyone wants to like tinker or learn or just like try a thing or go to a workshop, they can.
Yeah.
And I love the creative components of that. So it sets us apart. it's hard to make the numbers make sense. And I think we've been seeing that in makerspace trends across the country. There are a lot of makerspaces closing because the business model is complicated.
So is yours, how did you fund the equipment? Through grants, donations? What?
Both of those, yeah.
Yeah.
So sponsorships, Wabash National is like
Okay.
a trailer manufacturer in our community, and they supported it in the beginning. Purdue's industrial design department had a faculty member who was really supportive, and he would like connect us to 3D printer companies who would send us a sample. So we've had a lot of like really good luck with interactions like that. We got a community foundation grant one year to help us expand our services back there. Indiana Economic Development Corporation has granted us funds for the programming. So we've had really good luck with partnerships because I think it is interesting. It is something that's kind of harder to come by. And
yeah, it's like funding
get excited
innovation. It
about
just
it.
has to be an investment that you might
Yeah.
not get a return on. I mean, it's a societal return. The point you have to
Yeah.
believe. So I could see people doing it on a smaller scale, or maybe not in an area with so much support that it could
Sure.
be hard. Yeah. Wow.
Keeping the square footage small and making it like a component of what we do
Yep.
and not what we
The whole
primarily
space.
do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because right, if you're paying rent and the numbers, because getting people to private pay for that space, I could see hard because it's people who haven't commercialized, right? They're
Yeah,
experimenting and learning. And so, yeah,
totally. And prototyping is like a phase in the iterative design process, right? Like
yeah,
you prototype and then hopefully you stop prototyping and you don't need that space anymore. You're
right.
like working with your manufacturers and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
distributing. So it's either like a short-term need or it's a hobby and that's hard to monetize.
yep.
But
Okay.
good community. We have good community back
Yeah.
there. And a bunch of
That too, I could
like
totally see that because lots of shared interests. Like, oh,
totally
right, your leather. What did you do? Leather.
leatherworking, jewelry
Yeah.
make. Like, yeah, there are people, our makerspace contractor in his day job, he runs a cosplay studio. Like that's what he does when he's not here. So
What?
cosplay, like elaborate costumes, a lot of them are
Oh,
like based on movie characters. He makes like realistic looking props.
wow.
My favorite, his name's James Wolfgar. My favorite James like project that he's told me about, he made a prop like weapon, I guess, for a Lana Del Rey music video. So
Wow.
neat. Yeah, so that's what he does
He
when
lives
he's
in
not.
Lafayette, and this is what he
Yeah.
does.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he travels to
Okay,
like
but that's
conventions.
the cool thing too about doing these in small towns is you're like, who knew this guy was here?
Oh my
Right?
gosh, 100%.
He shows
It's
up
so
in the
nuts.
makerspace. Yeah.
Like when I think about who I get to interact with day in and day out, our member community is so interesting
You're
and
kind
so
of making me want to move to Lafayette, honestly. Which is
did I mention
also
cost of living?
right. No, yes, you did. And believe me that I calculated California is not a low cost
Ooh,
place to live. We do
mm-mm.
have great weather. It has not snowed
Yeah,
yet, but back to the economic development piece. I mean,
yeah,
you're like an amenity for the town. I mean, it's so cool, which obviously like goes back to your founding story and why you're there. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's why the mayor didn't hesitate to get behind it. We were so lucky, and we've like, people reach out to us and like ask to get connected with him because they're like, how do I convince my mayor to get behind his thing? Like,
Right. Yes, you'll get some phone calls from this podcast. So
yeah.
be prepared. So whose role is it to keep the lights on, like to keep you funded, and how does that work?
Yeah, that's me now.
That's your job. Okay. Was it 6 months ago or did you opt into that?
Yeah, so I kind of opted into it. Our model, the way that we kind of grew, our co-founder Jason, who served as our executive director for the first 10 years, was fractional. So he runs a strategy and design
Yep.
business. This was a component of what he did. And I really like am grateful for the opportunity to have been managing director like while he was in that role because I got to learn so much. I got to get my hands like into what all of that looks like before I had to hold the reins. So that's mine now. I work with our board. I work with Juliana, our director of operations. We're constantly looking for opportunities for partnership, for writing grants, for like growing and retaining our member base, for sponsor relations. All those things are kind of like top of mind constantly for us.
Yeah. So your website says your membership fees support like roughly a third of what it costs to run
Yeah.
the space. So you're funding the rest of it.
Yeah, and we have corporate memberships
Okay.
that really look more like sponsorships.
Yeah.
They're sponsorships. So
Okay.
we have names on the doors. There are naming opportunities all over this space. We have like a wall of sponsors. They're on our website. And I think like the draw for them is not only like to be able to utilize the space if they're doing offsite trainings or things like that, hosting events, but also like that story earlier about working with the recruitment and retention
Yeah.
folks in HR. They care that this is in our community because they are trying to recruit people to our community, and they do want Greater Lafayette to be a place where people want to live. And we're that's such a significant part of our mission.
So does it ever keep you up at night, this like having to keep the lights on?
Yeah,
It
totally.
does. Okay.
Yeah, because and most of these grants, it didn't for a while. I'll say like we had some really strong partners. We did the pandemic thing alongside everyone else, and we
Yeah.
lost a lot of our sponsorships through that process. For good reason. They were saying
Yeah.
we're furloughing employees.
Yeah.
We're not going to keep sponsoring the local co-working studio, which that makes sense, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to reprioritize where that money goes. And I think during that process, we realized that it was important for us to diversify our funding model. So we built our acceleration programming for a couple of reasons. One, once we got kind of that like critical mass of members, we heard from them what they need for the next thing. And I think we always knew because of the mission and vision of the organization that it wasn't just a building. It wasn't, that like we had to go a little bit deeper in the community. And we were all encountering individually members approaching us and asking us like how to start a thing, right? Like this like
Yep.
ramped up big
Yeah.
time in 2020.
Mhm.
And so my background was helping the Purdue entrepreneurs start and grow businesses. Juliana did the same thing at Purdue. Jason had started several accelerators and had like worked in that space and was a serial entrepreneur himself. So we're doing a lot of these like one-on-one meetings, and we realized we needed to systemize that. And because we'd worked in the incubator and accelerator spaces, we knew we could take that model and make it applicable for like Main Street businesses. So that's kind of what we built. Like the repeatable component of our programming is that acceleration course. And it's been amazing. This is our first year where we've graduated over 100 founders in a single year. So that there's been so much opportunity for partnership that's been really cool for us. We have some like large accelerators that play in our state, but these aren't venture track companies. They're not looking for venture capital. They're never going to
Okay.
raise a fund.
Okay.
They need customers. But
Yeah.
we can still put them through that
The
that
same.
business
Okay.
model canvas. We
Yeah.
can still go through all of the
Yep.
curriculum and like models that we have experience with from running other accelerators. And we've just kind of like custom tailored that to fit literally anyone. So it's good for, a micro business or a consultant.
Wow. Okay. So even though you are in the university environment, you're not focused only on like the big ideas. Because that is, my husband's in biotech, and it's so interesting to
Yeah,
me. Like big ideas come out of, he's working at a company. The science is from Johns Hopkins. His last company, was from the University of Seattle. Like it came
sure.
out of the lab on campus. So that's not your focus. It's really like the regular. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, we do get those like high tech, high growth startups that come through that are really like innovation driven.
Yeah.
But that's not our focus necessarily. It's one area where we
Yep.
focus. We want to support those companies as much as a flower shop, but we know that it's embracing like both those idea oriented, innovation driven, but also like the small and medium enterprises, the Main Street businesses, the consultants, the remote businesses, et cetera. And
Yeah.
all of our cohorts are cross sector. So we get those folks in a room together, and it's
Yeah.
pretty cool to see what happens then.
Yeah. And then do they stay?
They usually stay.
Yeah. The idea, right? The life
Yeah.
cycle of stay. I mean, unless you're a flower shop and you have to go work in your flower shop, I guess.
Sure,
Yeah.
but you know what? Like you'd be surprised. Like the flower shops stay too, and they'll stay, and then they'll bring us flowers once a week. I mean, this is a real story. She's a Main Street flower shop, and she brings us flowers like once a week and puts them on the counter. And she comes to all of our events, and she's our florist when we have a big event. So it's all symbiotic.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So we talked about, we're running out of time, so we're going to have to
Oh
ask.
no.
I know. Okay.
I'm
Besides
sorry.
the funding, what's the
Yeah.
hardest part of your job?
No, it's that I
Yeah.
hate thing sponsorship. I'm still bad at
There
it.
she
I'm
goes. Okay.
so bad at
Confession
it.
time. No, you're not bad
Oh,
at it. You're doing great.
but I can I can do the relationship building part for days, for months, but making that ask is still something I'm working on. I'm developing my development skills.
Yeah. Okay. Which is right. It's a set of skills. It's experience. It's tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
way more aligned with sales than community building. And
Yeah. I always do think that people who do, it's like a fundraising role.
yeah,
Yeah. Which is it. Right. Totally. But okay. Well, good for your professional development. You're growing and somebody's got to keep the lights on. So now that's your job.
yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
tell them when my board of directors asks me where I could use improvement, I'll put
Yeah.
this right in my self-assessment.
Professional development plan for 2025. It's on there. Okay. Favorite co-working app.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So co-working specific app, because we've been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of like gone through the process of starting and migrating, I think 3 times. We're getting ready to do our 3rd migration.
Oh no,
I
you're
know.
changing again.
Well,
Oh no.
yeah. And it is wild. It's wild. So I don't think we've landed on the right one for us just yet. But hopefully, if you ask me this question in a year, I'll
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite app that you use in business in general?
I mentioned Squarespace earlier, and I do
Yeah.
love it. I just love it. We do our email marketing through Squarespace. We do all of the
Really?
forums on our website, like all of our event registrations in
I didn't know
person.
it did all that.
Event
Wow.
registrations. Yeah, it took a little bit to like wrap our head around it, but I kind of love it. And it makes it easy to help members who are trying to build. So I'm a
Oh,
big
right.
fan.
Good point. Super
Yeah.
simple platform. We know how to use it, and then you can help other people. Okay,
Yeah.
you did confess that you don't really know how to use the media studio, but that it gets used a lot. And
Yeah.
you are in a smaller market. And I said sometimes I'm really nervous. So it's a multi-purpose room, but has a great background, which is
Yeah.
super important because everybody's always recording video.
This is an excerpt from The Cave by Plato. This is our co-founder, Jason. This is his work, his design work. So he put that together. Yeah, it's multifunctional. Everything here, this whole space is on wheels. Like everything in the studio can be moved around. But this room, especially, all of the equipment, I'll pivot you, all of the equipment is on that table.
Oh, yeah, it's a big space too. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty big. So,
but you're at like a typical like boardroom table kind of thing.
Typical boardroom table, yeah.
Okay.
And they can everything can be moved around, that can be pushed to the side. So it's very multifunctional, but really well used. I think, podcasts are the new book. So anyone who's doing consulting work has to generate content somehow. So
so they use it, they book it and they use it. Cool. So since you don't know how to use it, how do you teach people how to use it? Like if somebody's like, yeah, I'm starting a podcast, how do I use this stuff? What do they do?
Yeah, we have videos, we have SOPs, and then James, our makerspace and media studio contractor, will do training.
How to use all the stuff. Okay, cool. Yeah. I do feel like it is not a set it and forget it, because you will have people who want to start, and if you don't you don't have a mechanism to help them, then
100% is not a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Media studio or makerspace, like both of those require a ton of like ongoing hands-on maintenance and resetting and training and strategizing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
Is anything in co-working a set it and forget it?
I know, totally. You know what's so funny? Hey, anybody who's listening from the SBA, the SBA lends to co-working spaces and they consider it to be passive income. Do you want to just like roll on the floor and laugh? I mean, maniacally, I know. It's like, no, it's just not. I mean, it's really not. Even like the more traditional, like lots of offices, it's just still not. Right? I mean, it's a membership driven, short term. I don't understand. Yeah, they need to spend more time in them anyway.
That's amazing.
No. Okay, so we have to go. It was. I love your
We
story.
just got here. I just got here.
We totally just got here. Okay, what are you most excited about for 2025? It's that time
Oh
of
my
year.
gosh. The Global Entrepreneurship Conference is coming to Indiana in 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think the whole state's like a little bit buzzed about that.
Yeah.
In our studio, we're translating our acceleration curriculum to Spanish and Haitian Creole to make it accessible to more folks in our community, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
Those are the top two.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. It was great to meet you. Thank you for joining
Likewise.
us, and we'll have to do this again.
Sounds good. Thanks for the invite. Bye, Jamie.